Welcome to the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Dr. Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. I'm Dr. Squee and this is my show. This week coming to you recorded, pre-recorded. So the reason why we've done this is because a couple of weeks ago we lost a couple of greats. In fact, it's within a couple of weeks. So we lost Michael Jayston. He died on the 6th of February. And he played, as well as many other things, he was in Smiley's People. He played the Valeyard in Doctor Who and classic Doctor Who, and he was Raquel's dad in Only Fools and Horses. He was the one who discovered the mystical watch, which allowed the Trots to become millionaires finally. So wonderful actor. And the other one, we're gonna I'll come back to Michael Jayston in a second, but we also lost Ian Lavender. Here I am with him and one of the other surviving members at the time of Dad's Army, and he was just a wonderful. I interviewed him at CovCon a couple of years ago. I think it was something like 2019 when I interviewed him. I used to do interviews every year there. Unfortunately, there was an audio recording, but it really just wasn't up to snuff. So I'm not going to play that for you because I don't think it's good enough to play. However, I did get a recording of Michael Jayston, which we're going to hear in a minute. But on the Ian Lavender front, when I did meet him, he was getting on a bit, and he was maybe not in the best of health at the time, even. And I won't say what, because I don't think it's kind of like seemly to do so. But he asked me to do him a favor because of his ailments. If his wife gave me a signal, I needed to shut down the interview just a little bit early. And surely enough, he was having a little bit of an issue, and his wife gave me the signal. And so I just thanked him very much. I go, I'm really sorry, guys, but there's such a packed schedule. We're going to have to let Ian go. And he went off to sort himself out and then came back to do as many autographs and signing as people wanted, despite the fact that he was kind of maybe just struggling a bit. And he said to me, he goes, "Oh, thank you very much. That was very nicely handled of you. I'd stand you a pint, but I have to run off to something else." And there was something about using the phrase "stand me a pint," which was very much of its time. It's not a phrase really used, and it was just lovely and wonderful. It was just such a lovely and warm man. And that's how I remember him. Getting on to Michael Jayston, who we're going to hear an interview recorded at Sci-Fi Weekender, a few years ago. It was the first Weekender back after COVID, and so for anyone who doesn't know, the Sci-Fi Weekender is we've got it coming up actually in just next month, and it's going to be Sci-Fi Weekender 15 with all those wonderful guests who you see on the video screen right now. And when Michael was there, he was absolutely wonderful and lovely. And I'd interviewed him actually also at CovCon briefly previously. But I don't think he completely, he's not a sci-fi fan. I mean, again, he was absolutely lovely to everyone. He was signing autographs, wonderful in this talk, which you're about to hear. But I don't think he really got into the sci-fi and the kind of, there was an award ceremony the night before and there was loads of kind of weird and wonderful musical acts. Which wasn't, you'll hear him saying it in a minute, it wasn't kind of his cup of tea, but he was doing his best to get into the spirit of things. At one stage he talks about Brexit, which he was not a fan of, and sort of kind of outed a few people who'd voted for Brexit as some showbiz friends of his. And he was just a very kind of unique individual character. I don't think he stood much malarkey, shall we say, whereas Ian was maybe a bit more kind of warm slightly than Michael. But what a legend, what a body of work he leaves behind. Both gents, in fact, just incredible work. So from Doctor Who, from Only Fools and Horses, from Smiley's People, from EastEnders, from Coronation Street, from more shows than I could wish to mention right here. Please here is the late, great Michael Jayston. This is going to be on audio. We've got some visuals, some pictures of Michael from over his career and when I met him for you to enjoy while you listen to this interview. But please enjoy this. R.I.P. both Ian Lavender and Michael Jayston. How are you doing, Michael? Are you having a good time so far?
Yeah, I am.
Excellent. Welcome to the Weekender. Did you have a good night last night at the ball?
Well, I'll be absolutely honest. The music wasn't my cup of tea, and but I knew it was damn well done. You know, you can not like some music, but you know that a lot of fans do like it. So I'm also sitting down there. You've got to shout your head off. I like a nice little conversation, however. But it was so well done last night. Especially the two announcers. I mean, the Aussie.
Sure. Guys, look, obviously I can happily talk to Michael for an hour, but we've got a couple of microphones here. Please come up, ask your questions, and Michael will answer them for you. But just to begin with, while we're waiting for people to come up to the microphones, Michael, tell us about getting your start in acting.
In what?
In acting. When did you your start in acting?
Did I start acting?
Yeah, when you started acting, your first gigs, that kind of thing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, tell us about starting in acting.
Oh God, well, we're going back to, I was brought up in Nottingham, and anybody from Nottingham?
Oh, it's the energy they've got.
And the Nottingham Rep at that time had people like Judi Dench's husband, Michael Williams. Brian Blessed was walking on, he's here today. Oh yes he is. Brian Blessed was walking on, and I thought at that time, I was about 22, 23, that I wouldn't stand a chance. And I was in an amateur group that had Peter Bowles before me, John Bird before me, the great comedian, Tom Baker after me, and Sue Pollard after me. And it was a great company. It was one of the, it was an amateur company, but most of them could have been professionals, I think. And then I took a grade 8 acting test and got incredibly high marks, and the guy who was doing it said, why don't you audition for Guildhall School of Music and Drama? And so I did, and but by that time I was working for the Coal Board, and I decided to make money. I would join Nottingham Fish Market, which I did. I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and finish around about 1 o'clock, but I got paid about 3 times the amount of money, but it wasn't, but I was also acting as in the evening, but I was young so I could do it, and I did that for nearly a year and a half, but I'd saved so much money, but then I got a scholarship, so I thought, whoopee! So, that was the start really, I suppose.
Great. Have we got any questions? Oh, here we go.
Can you hear me all right? Yep. Hello. I'd quite like to know your experience of getting involved in a pivotal role in one of the most beloved television institutions ever existed, which of course, by of course I mean only Fools and Horses, and being the man that made the Trotter Millionaires.
So, working on Only Fools and Horses.
Well, it's very funny, it's a bit like Doctor Who. Because often, even in those days, even if you've done quite a lot of work, you had to audition. Now, I'd met David Jayston. Actually, I don't think I'd worked with him. Had I worked with him before then? I'm not sure. But I accepted that part immediately because it was an institution, as you say. Same as the Doctor Who. I couldn't believe it. I thought. And my agent said, it's an offer. You don't have to audition or anything. So, but it's odd. I did 8 days work on Only Fools and Horses, but I was the one who found the watch. So, it was unbelievable. I never thought, all those years later, it's 40 years, 60 years Doctor Who, I never thought I'd be here talking about it still, because it was 8 days, damn good work with very good people. Nicholas Lyndhurst was lovely, and the script was fantastic. A lot of it had to be cut because it was that good. I mean, when I found The Watch, which actually, as you know, exists, or it did exist, there was one of them existed, and it was worth, now it'd be worth 10 million quid. I had to say, oh, have you got any rags I can clean this with? Oh, what about this? And Rodney said, oh, that's my shirt. Cut. Because there were so many lines that cut them out, because Sullivan, it was such a marvellous, marvellous script. I did enjoy doing it, but then I thought, well, 8 days went out. I thought that would be the end of it. And it wasn't. Here I am. It's like Doctor Who. The same thing happened with Doctor Who. And actually, in some ways, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, because I did that 78. And I did all the John le Carré books, which was the same sort of thing. I knew him quite well for, when you think of 78, about over 3/4 of my life was connected with Tinker Tailor. The books went from, until he died, you know, only a year or so ago. Unbelievable.
Very fantastic mind to write all those spy thrillers. What was he like as a person?
Well, as you probably have read recently, Sue, what's her name? I forgot her name now. She's called herself Sue Like or something or other. But I knew her when I did the first Tinker Tailor shortened version about 2 years after I'd done the television. And Sue Dawson was doing it. She was at Oxford then. And I thought, what a bright lady. She's now written her own book about the great affair they had. Oh boy. I don't believe half of it. Well, I know they had an affair, but why does she bring it out when the latest book of all his letters has come out? It's just to make money, and I like to. I worked with her afterwards because I did a version of Les Mis with her, and I liked her a lot. But I'm sorry, what question did you ask me? Oh, yeah. He was one of the most intelligent men I've ever met in my life. Absolutely anti leaving Britain, the Brexit. In fact, in his last book, Legacy of Spies, he has Smiley. I mean, it's pushing it a bit, because Smiley would be over 100 by this time, but none of the critics just accepted that. And my character of Willem meets him, and you want to read the last speech that Smiley says, which is anti-people leaving the Union. Whoa, boy.
Well, thankfully everything's gone swimmingly since Brexit, so we don't need to discuss any further. Getting back to our influence.
Well, you see, obviously some people here voted to leave, and somebody voted to stay. So, and I've got a lot of friends. All right, I'll tell you the story about leaving and staying. I've got a hell of a lot of friends. Jon Snow, the ex-cricketer, various people. Colin Baker, Nicola Bryant, all voted to leave. Anyway, but they're still friends. I work with, oh God, here we go, it's my damned age. John Thor's wife, she's still around.
Oh, Sheila Hancock.
Sorry? Yes.
Sheila Hancock?
Worked with her on it was like 2 years ago. A marvellous thing, but it's too depressing, man. It's gone out. It was a sort of 10-minute sequence thing, but she said right straight away, she said, Michael, I don't think we've met before. I said, we have with John once or twice. Oh, you read. How did you vote? I said, I voted to remain. Oh, thank God. She didn't say thank God. She said various other words. Thank God for that. She said, I had a dinner party the other night. 7 or 8 friends of mine. 3 of them, I've known them for years. 3 of them voted to leave. And I will never speak to them again. I thought, come on. see her point. I mean, she's very, I still hope I'm a bit of a socialist. She's very, very left-wing, and so was John. And that's beside the point. Go on.
Well, I just want to dive in a bit more with Only Fools. So obviously it was such a wonderful episode on the screen. Did it jump out at you in the script in the same way?
Only Fools?
Yeah. The script.
Oh yes, because I knew of Harrison's watch. Because there was a film with Michael Gambon. He played Harrison, didn't he, in a television thing, which was marvellous. Now they know there was one which is in Greenwich, and they know there was another one that might have been blown up in the Blitz. And I knew that, and the scripts were, oh God, were so fantastic, I thought. Not right at the very beginning, because as you know, it was in the Times the other day. I didn't know this. When Only Fools and Horses went out, it didn't get very good notices. One or two people said, oh, and they shelved it after it was done. There was a strike on about a year and a bit later. So somebody thought, oh, we'll send all Only Fools and Horses out. And if that hadn't been done, you never know, it might never have been successful. They might never have done any more. Because they shelved it and then brought it out because of the strike. So the strike actually made it. It's like Dad's Army, a lot of people don't. Who wants to know about a lot of old gentlemen who are, and it's like the Goon Show. There was one producer, and this is absolutely true, was overheard to say, because Swanwick Milligan told me this, he said, some producer said, what is this Go On show about? Go on.
That's part of the tell, isn't it? With Only Fools, you also worked with David Jayston on The Darling Buds of May. Were you friends? Did you know him a bit?
I worked with David Jayston on The Darling Buds of May, and of course a bit of a do.
Oh yes, of course.
Which, well, don't get me wrong, I like David a lot, and he put me up for a part which perhaps you might have seen called Albert's Memorial with David Warner. And but with Darling Buds of May there again. I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones. One of my sons was 13 or 14 at the time. Introduced her. She gave him a kiss, and he was going around school saying, "Catherine Zeta-Jones kissed me." Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure she did. Sure she did.
And she was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, she was a lovely, lovely lady. Anyway, Only Fools and Horses. Yeah, no. Darling Buds of May, and also a bit of a do. And I think that had a hell of a cast. It had Stephanie Cole and Tim Wilkin, who could have had a show of their own. And it had Nicola Paget and Gwen Taylor. And I think David realised there were, because he went on, it's the only time I slightly fell out with him. I was talking about comedy. He said, "You playing comedy?" And I said, "Well," oh, he said, "You're not bad in this." I said, "Listen, I'd stand more chance of playing Bellboy than you would playing Noel Coward. I've played Noel Coward, but then it was okay." And I'm still friends with this, and he put me up for quite a few things which I couldn't do. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I've heard he's very giving, and on Only Fools he would bring on guest players and make them part of the team for for however long they were on the show.
Sorry.
Just that David Jayston would bring people, into the circle, that would very much include the people who are filming an episode.
Yes, I know he put a lot of people up for a lot of parts. Alec Guinness used to do that, actually, but he would never have admitted. Tinker Taylor, he put up, including me, I think 4 or 5 people. He wouldn't admit it. He said, "Well, you're quite a good actor, Michael. The producers wanted to..."
So, have we got any more questions? No? Okay. Let's go on to the Doctor Who of it all. So, you played Marion, of course, one of the Doctors, and it seemed like such a pivotal series. It was kind of sink or swim for Doctor Who at the time.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this quite a few times. I know you probably, some of you might be too young to know what happened, but Lord Grade and Powell didn't like it. They thought it was getting a bit old-fashioned and they didn't like the scripts. And in fact, I told Colin, because I met Lord Grade and I like him a lot, and I like Colin a lot. So I said, Grade's got a point. Not at the time, I didn't, because I thought it was disgusting that there were so many arguments going on. They wanted a Doctor Who could have finished, you know. Then.
Yeah.
Could have
Well,
finished.
the Doctor cancelled just before that.
There were rubbish going on all the time. I couldn't do anything because I was just an actor in it, but Colin Baker and John Nathan Turner and was fantastic about it. He had these battles all the time. But you see, my character in that, the trial of a Time Lord, of course, it's the trial of Doctor Who.
Yes. Yeah.
But then the great Doctor Who fans got together and said, no, please don't do this. I don't think Grade understood it. I don't think he liked the show at all.
No.
I asked him actually, he said, well, Powell was the worst actually. And I'd worked with him, he was the producer on Dick and Taylor. I'd worked with him and I liked him a lot. He didn't talk to me on Doctor Who. I met him on John le Carré's memorial service the other day. Well, 6 months ago. And a lot of people asked me why I didn't do Smiley's People. It was because the first director, Alec Guinness, used to look at directors and find out whether they were any good or not. He didn't like this particular director because he found out that the director had been a bit of a used to get babies to cry by putting pins in them, and the girls he was having affairs with. So he said, I don't want that director. He'd signed the contract. They had to pay him off. The director got a bit upset about this and managed to get hold of Alec Guinness's phone number and rang him up. And Guinness said, why have I got the sack? Why have you sacked me? Well, I'll tell you this, and this is absolute truth, because Guinness told me this and somebody else did. He said, I've heard you're a bit of a shit. I don't like working with shits. Well, that suffice. Put the phone down. Now, in between all this time, Powell said, why isn't my agent, who is one of the great agents, Julian Belfridge, said, you're the Smiley's People, you've been offered. I said, yeah, but he said, there's no script, we don't know who's directing, one director's been sacked. And so it went on and on and on, by which time I was offered The Sound of Music with Petula Clark. And I thought, well, I so accepted that, and Guinness was marvellous about it. He sent me a thing on the first night of the Sound of Music with champagne and smoked salmon and saying, we're missing you here at the circus and all that kind of thing. But Powell couldn't understand it. And he went on, if the second director had done it, I would have done Smiley's People and wouldn't have done The Sound of Music because they would have got somebody else for that. So I was lucky actually, I loved Sound of Music. I was in it for a year and 2 months and made a lot of money. And loved Petula's coming up for 90, I think. Right. Oh God, doesn't time fly?
Can you tell us a bit about playing The Sound of Music? That sounds amazing. Sound of Music. What were you playing?
Well, I mean, it was such a long time ago, and some of it is on. Some of the songs are on YouTube or something. But I'll tell you, there was a lovely actor called John Bennett who was in it. He was a very good actor. You wouldn't know him. You're far too young. But he was, and Honor Blackman was in it, and Petula, of course. There was one performance. Petula was a terrible sort of, shall we say, a corpser. She used to laugh a lot, so I had to, because I like making people laugh on stage sometimes. But she was terrible. Anyway, John, this particular night, I don't know what had happened. He was in, he looked, I said, what's the matter with John? He said, oh, He's been ringing up, making phone calls to his agent, something's gone wrong with his wife, the whole thing. So he came on in this scene and he was supposed to say, Georg, I think George, and there were bells all the way around the Apollo Victoria Theatre, bells chiming. Is there he was supposed to say, is there a cathedral around here? And I said, no, that's our Abbey, Nomberg Abbey. Oh, this particular night, he said, Georg, is there a telephone around here? Is the bell there? I said, no, that's our Abbey. He said, like that, you can't live in musicals. Instead of sort of accepting it, because the band was singing up with Petula coming on, I could see Petula go in the wings. Anyway, he then said, oh, I'm terribly sorry, I meant, was there an abbey round here? I said, I've already said it was an abbey. He said, no, I meant, he went on and on. I said, but be quiet, whatever his name was. Petula comes on, I have to sing, I must have had a wicked childhood, it was matinee. There were loads of people from Blackpool come, thousands of them. And it held the record, still holds the record for the most audience figures in a fortnight. Anyway, now you can get away with saying lines when you want to laugh, but you can't do it when you're singing. But she says and she kept it. I mean, she kept the tune, but you could tell that something was going on. She was bursting. Anyway, that particular Petula always after the show signed everything, even if it was 50, 60 people, she'd sign everything. And that particular night, somebody said to me, Petula, when she sang, I must have had a wicked childhood. Oh, it was wonderful. You didn't know whether she was laughing or crying. Because there's an element, the sameness between laughing and crying goes into it. Now, they never knew.
If we can get back onto Dr. a bit. I absolutely loved the interplay between you and Colin. It was a great sort of like back and forth between you two. Was that energy quite instant between you two?
Yes, it was. We got on like an house on bus straight away, and we still do. In fact, whenever we do a double act together, I don't know, we seem to spark things off. We're very rude to each other as well. If you know somebody very well, you can be rude to them. But I like that guy. I mean, there's certain things I don't like about him, but nobody's perfect. It's like this thing about Churchill. Well, I've done Churchill on, I don't know, loads of books and things. They're going on about the fact that, oh, he was a racist and this and that. So, Gandhi, what he said about the blacks was appalling. Because he only wanted the Asians to be on there. He thought the blacks were fifth-rate citizens, and he didn't treat them like children. So, there's nobody, I don't think, who's... everybody's got problems somewhere, even Nelson Mandela. I admired that man for his courage and his fortitude. The way he treated his first wife was appalling. And one of his other wives was Winnie Mandela, who murdered somebody. Never mind, carried away. But what I wanted to say was nobody's perfect.
And of course, Linda Bellingham, the late great. She was fantastic.
Sorry?
Linda Bellingham, working with her on Doctor as well.
Yes,
she
absolutely. And that was upsetting when she died. Oh God, life's too short. I mean, she wasn't very old, I don't think. But that's the way it goes with our life at the moment. I mean, a lot of things are going wrong. Linda was lovely to work with. She got a bit cheesed off about being stuck in the studio, whereas at least I got out twice. I got in the Potteries with Jeff Hughes, and at the end, of course, at the end I wasn't wearing that silly hat. I don't mean silly, it didn't look silly, but it was
you got likely, most of them get the whole headset, you just had a little, cap.
Yes, but that thing, it was like that, so he'd have to be stuck down with glue onto my my head.
I poor Linda must have been turning like this, you know. So,
Everybody else is brave.
welcome back.
Hello. I would like to ask you about reprising the Valley of the Big Finish, starting with the Jest with Stars, which is perhaps one of my favourite pieces that
With Bonnie, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a Big Finish, me playing at the Valley Art again. It's very funny, when I was offered that Jest with Stars, there again, it's because the time goes. I said to Bonnie, I thought it was about, I don't know, 12 years ago, it's much longer than that. It was great to do, because I had to go back and look at how I played it on television, with the inflections and everything. But then, I've done 5 or 6 now, and the last one I did was with McGann. But you see, I've said this time and time again, Colin doesn't quite agree with me. Or he will agree eventually. I think the scripts on Big Finish were better than the television scripts we had by a long way. We had the home scripts, 2 of them, and then he dies. We had Sedgwick, and then we had the Baker twins, who I liked as people. But the dialogue was awful stuff, I think. It didn't matter with the Valley Art so much, but Colin had to say, oh, the boat yard and the junk yard, and yeah, great writing.
There was some silliness, but I do think those scenes with, as I say, you, Colin, and Lily Bay were electric. It was just you 3 bouncing off each other, which I think made it.
Well, it's just that, you know, Linda was a good actress.
Yes. Yeah.
And Colin is, I don't think he gets maligned, but I think a good actor, if he's got bad dialogue, which Colin had, it's better than a good actor with good dialogue, you know what I mean?
It's also one of those actors.
But a lot of people put him way down on this. I mean, he should have been way up. I mean, did you ever see a film called Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino?
Yeah, yeah.
Absolute nonsensical script about a blind man driving a car whilst we eventually kill one of his young students he takes on. But unbelievable performance, I thought.
Yeah.
And the young guy got an Oscar. But the whole idea of it was absolute utter nonsense. However,
Yeah, I mean, I think Colin's one of those actors who, if you're an actor who swings for the fences, sometimes things will work better than others.
Yeah,
but you know, he just goes for it. He plays his
have you ever seen him on stage?
No.
Well, I saw him on stage twice, and he's a very, very good actor on that level. But the trouble is, you have to be Ian McKellen to get any work now at our age. Not that I know I love Ian McKellen. I mean, he's a damn good actor, but good acting.
Just before we bring in the next question, just to go back to Jest with Stars, I thought that was just a wonderful idea. So for anyone who hasn't heard it, it's what would happen if the Valiant wins, and it kind of shows the hubris of the bad guy winning. That must have been so much fun to play that.
Yes, but there's been more of it than that. I did another thing with Bonnie and and Colin and Linda and there's loads of them. I think I did 5 or 6 altogether.
Yeah.
I haven't done any for about a year and a bit now. My McGann was the last one.
So,
hello, Michael. If you hadn't been an actor, what career would you have taken instead?
A journalist. I was going to be a journalist. When I was about 12, I thought my ideal job would be a footballer during the winter, a cricketer during the summer, a actor in the evenings, and a writer in my spare time. And I actually applied to the Nottingham, whatever paper it was, and when I left the National Service when I was 19, and they offered me a job, but it was only doing funerals and things, and I wanted to go straight in and be another Neville Cardus, who was a great cricket writer. I wanted to go on to cricket, so I joined the coal board instead, which was a terrible bloody job. But nowadays, I wouldn't go into the business because it's got ridiculous. I mean, for instance, my agent said the other day, if you're registered as an agent, you've got to, and it's obligatory, you've got to take on a third of ethnic people, i.e. black, Asian, whatever it is. Nonsense. You should go on talent alone. It's like this. I mean, I demonstrated in 1965, and I know it was 1965 because I just joined the Royal Shakespeare Company, and we demonstrated outside the South African Embassy against apartheid. Now that was what, 50 odd years ago? I'm getting angry now. I was in America in I heard Martin Luther King, who was a great orator. He got murdered the next year. That was 50 odd years ago. There was women's lib in the 60s. That was 50 years ago. They're still going on and on about it. I know women at one point didn't get paid as much as men. Well, Maggie Smith, I wouldn't say, if I was working with her, I did work with her. I want the same money as Maggie Smith. Oh no, she's too famous. But if you had a part that was exactly the same as same length, women order about half the size, half the money. That was a long time ago now. But I think there will always be what Nietzsche, and I didn't mind Nietzsche, but he did say there's always an Untermensch that believes that the Jews control the world and all that conspiracy theory nonsense. There will always be that, I don't think. You Jewish?
Yeah, no, Kanye West, I was just saying. Sorry,
I'm sorry, we mustn't get too serious, but life, I think there will always be prejudiced people who don't like blacks, whites, and I mean, it goes both ways. But to me, what gets me is that a black actor played Henry V. I've forgotten his damn name now. People said he was fantastic. Henry V was not black. If you did it the other way round and said, right, I'm a white man, I want to play Martin Luther King or Paul Robeson or any black actor, then, oh no, you can't do that. It's rubbish. I mean, now Hopkins is just, they said, oh, you've got to be Jewish to play Shylock. No, you haven't. It's about acting.
Well, Patrick Stewart actually did I think he's called it a colour negative version of Othello, where he played Othello. All the
Pat Stewart?
Yeah, the white characters were all played by black actors, black characters were played by white actors. So it has been done.
Yeah, but you see, Tom Baker, you all know Tom Baker, don't you? When this thing started, he sent me an email. This was about, maybe 3 years ago. He said, what are you going to do about this, in the email, the gender casting thing? So I sent him an email back saying, Tom, I'm looking forward very much to playing Mother Teresa and Desmond Tutu without the tutu. He sent me an email back by return. He said, I'm going to play Shirley Temple and Laurel of Laurel and Hardy, but I'll play Laurel as a black lesbian woman. Will that do? Now, when anybody asks me about gender casting, that's all I say, because I don't want to get into that silly argument. I went up Tom the other day. I think he's putting on a bit of an act with me, because he said, I look in the mirror. I said, are you what? He said, yes, I look in the mirror, and I think, oh, what a marvellous looking man you are for your age. Anyway, but I don't think he's terribly well. Have you seen how many photographs of him? He's lost a lot of weight. But, you know, it's like a lot of people who get elderly, they don't want to admit that they're ill. But again, I said, are you still going to play Shirley Temple? He said that my hair's got white now and it's not as curly as it was.
Next big finish audio range, that's all I'm saying. Highlander 3, I did want to ask you about.
Oh, what?
Highlander 3, you appeared in.
Oh, God, why?
I know we're at Sci-Fi Weekend, I thought we might.
Well, see, that's very strange, because I went to Morocco to do that with Lambert, well, Lambert, or well, he's Lambert when he acts in French or Canadian French.
Tristan Lambert.
And well, I was only on it for about 5 or 6 days, and I got well paid for it. Eventually, although they were Casablanca I've been to, it was a bit disappointing because I thought it'd be like the real thing, which of course wasn't shot there at all. And I liked Marrakesh. I'd been there before, actually. But yes, I enjoyed doing it. But there again, it was only 6 or 7 days' work. I only had about, what, 3 scenes?
Yeah.
Nice scenes, actually. But I liked him a lot. And I got his autograph for my children, which was nice of him. And he was a very generous man. He played good. I don't know what's happened to him now. Perhaps he's gone old. And he's not Ian McKellen.
Well, you mentioned a lot of classic Shakespearean actors, and you've done quite a lot of Shakespeare yourself, both on the TV and stage. Do you have a favourite, and what's it like for you playing Shakespeare?
Well, Ian Home, who died, well, it was a memorial service. Ian Home was mine. No, there's a Bristol Old Vic with Richard Pascoe was his name, married to Barbara Lee Hunt, who's still alive. He taught me quite a lot. And I forgot Miss Dan, he was in Big Finish. God, here we go. You get old. Christopher Benjamin. Now, does that name mean anything to you?
Yeah. So he was in Dr. Who.
He was in one of the Big Finishes.
They don't like that.
Now, he was in the Bristol Old Vic, and I thought, my God, this is a good actor. But he's still going. I mean, he's nearly as old as I am now.
Brilliant. So it's what
But of course, I've worked with Olivier as well, but not in Shakespeare. On Laurence Olivier, on film. What am I talking about? He played Shylock and I played Graciano with a hell of a cast. Jeremy Brett was in that.
Brilliant. One which I wanted to ask you about, just because I remember it fondly. Do you remember being in the TV show version of Cluedo as Colonel Mustard?
Oh, God, do I remember? But there again, you've never seen that, have you? No.
I think I got a few years.
All right, I'll tell you who's in it.
But there are 3 people who were with me on this one.
Richard, only one foot in the grave.
Wilson.
Yeah, who is one of the funniest men I've ever met in my life. Because during that, and it took the crew some time to get hold of, he used to just sort of have a funny look. It wasn't that he was winding you up, and you couldn't say you were trying to make me laugh, but it was a sort of twinkle in his eye. And he would say, I mean, the dialogue was absolute garbage. Rubendenska was in it as well. Koo Stark. Yeah, she was having an affair with that great Andrew Koo Stark. Yeah, I remember once I was doing a scene with her and she couldn't come down. It was on me though. And I said, oh, it doesn't matter. And I was a bit naughty because nobody really liked her very much. I mean, bless her, I mean, she did have cancer. And I admire anybody who gets over that kind of thing with courage and conviction. But as a person, she wasn't terribly nice. I said, well, we don't need Koo to come down. Oh, she's getting changed. She was always getting changed and things. Well, why don't we have a wig block there instead? One of the sound men said, well, at least we'd get some expression out of that. Oh, and I'll tell you who else was in it. Man from U.N.C.L.E. He's still alive. Yes. Who did you just say?
David McCallum.
And what a man he was. I mean, he's still around. He's still acting in America. I saw it the other day, and he's about 2 or 3 years older than I am. I liked him a hell of a lot. So that was the cast, but we got well paid for it because I remember Richard Wilson said to me, I think we were getting sort of double the kind of money, and then we'd be interviewed by somebody famous like Richard and Judy and various other people. And a friend of his said, "Why are you doing that rubbish?" And Richard said, "Well, would you do that?" And then mentioned the figure. Yes. Well, of course, it all depends. If you want money for your retirement or something.
I mean, I would have done it just for the pantomime reveal at the end when it's like, yes, I did it, and I'm glad I did too. Like, there was always a really arch speech at the end you've got to do if you're the murderer.
Oh no, I thought you'd have more sense than to like Cluedo. However, we all have to do rubbish occasionally.
It still sounded very well to that, Cluedo, I'll have you know. Another thing, which you've worked in a lot of the soaps, and that's a very kind of, it feels like you're in people's home in a very unique way doing that. How do you find the soap opera acting?
Well, no, I did 6 weeks on Eastenders with Barbara Windsor and various people. I do admire the people, so some of them can act and some of them are just behaviourists and some of them look good. I mean, there are some good actors. Oh God, she died at the age of 90 odd. Dot Cotton, marvellous actress, marvellous actress, and I knew her quite well. She used to come down to Brighton a lot, but I find you don't get any rehearsals at all. When I did the Power Game all those years ago, I was at the Royal Shakespeare Company, and they allowed me, because we were doing things in repertory, so I wasn't in certain shows, they allowed me to do the Power Game while I was still acting with them, which was great. We used to have 2 weeks rehearsal in those days. Patrick Wymark, you probably don't remember him, died of drink when he was 47 or something, and was a marvellous actor. However, that sometimes happens to people. And,
So you've got 99 credits on IMDb.
I'm sorry, what I was going to say was, I find acting in soaps now, it's so tricky because I did about a year on Emmerdale, and we got no rehearsals. We might have one rehearsal, but we used to do it in the evenings. Like, if I had a scene with my daughter, I'd go over the scenes the day before in the evening, like have a few drinks and a meal, but go over the scenes so you knew what you were doing. And most of them did. That's professionalism in a way. But we should have had. They don't have rehearsals at all. You just got to go into it.
Yeah.
And then you find out after you've been in a series for about 7 years, as a shopkeeper, you suddenly find out you were a triple murderer and a drug addict. Which is quite tricky, isn't it?
I mean, that kind of thing can slip your mind. Have we got any more questions from the audience? Okay, I think we've got time for just a couple more questions. So one thing I want to ask you about, you've got 99 credits on IMDb, storied career. Is there any part which you've always wanted to play and never got the chance to?
I sound awful. I wouldn't mind playing King Lear because I think it's the greatest thing ever done, but I was offered it a couple of times over the last years and I was always doing something else, but no, I wish I'd done a bit more comedy actually, because I knew I could do comedy I did a lot of comedy on stage, but a bit of a do I suppose as a comic. And there was one, there again, it was Crown Court. You probably, I think some of that's on YouTube. Joe Brown's in it, quite a good cast, and went out in the afternoons. The critics said that this is as good, if not better, than Monty Python. But nobody watches television in the afternoon, so that went by the board. Litigation against a firm who'd got, they'd hired this great big mansion which was at the top of the Cairngorms, and the lavatory was about 1,000 foot at the bottom, so the old people in the middle of the night, a lot of them died trying to get to the lavatory. They hired Sherpas and they got crampons, but it didn't work, and that was the court case. And they had to have people in. out in Manchester, they had to have people for the final scenes as the jury, just ordinary people. And of course you get people saying, is that true? And he says so and so and so and so. And it was very, very funny. I love doing that. And some of that is on YouTube actually. I'm quite proud of it. Raymond Huntley was, I don't know whether you remember him, he's a marvellous old actor. He was in his 80s then, playing the judge. And he had to say, and eventually, I was laughing, but they knew I was... No, I don't know what I'm talking about at the moment. Hang on. Raymond Huntley had to say, and kept a totally straight face, what you have to decide, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as to whether the words, you get a letter saying they have made a right old bollocks up from start to finish. Now you or I, seeing those words, they have made a right old bollock, he said 3 or 4 times, would think there was some sort of criticism involved here. Now this was allowed all those years ago on television at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But he said he was an absolutely brilliant way of saying it, as if it was total seriousness. And that's the way to play comedy, I think.
Definitely. I think we've just run out of time. Thank you very much for the work over the years. Thank you very much for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jayston!
Thank you. I'd just like to say one more thing, and I've said this in America about the Doctor Who and sci-fi as well, and Germany, and it's the same in Germany. You lot are like a lovely family. If there were more people like you, the world would be a better place, and it's something to do with Doctor Who, I'm sure. God bless you.